Guys, good morning. It's Drew here. Quick video blog. I want to talk about the Syrian refugee crisis and, the right way to think about it as an American citizen. And, because I have a lot of liberal friends and, some of them from college. I don't really associate too much with liberals because their views are so different. But I have some college friends that are, liberals. And they, believe that our whole entire attitude towards Syrian refugees, whether Obama's letting in 10,000 or 200,000, I hear now the number is 200,000, but they think our whole attitude should be, just let them in and take care of them, have compassion for them. And, let me just say this, okay? It's very easy to have compassion, quote unquote. I say compassion, quote unquote, because I don't think it's real. It's very easy to have compassion for people that you'll never have to deal with in your daily life. You'll never, you don't have to deal with the risk of them coming back to you and asking you for more. You don't have to deal with them every single day. And not only that, if you say you donated $1 million, they're not there to say that, no, you didn't. You don't have to deal with them. So it's very easy to be compassionate towards those people. But are those same people that are compassionate towards so-called strangers and so-called refugees that they'll never meet, are they compassionate toward their parents, toward their friends and family, towards their siblings? When their siblings or when their significant others ask them for money, how often do they give them? Do they give it out? So that's the whole point. And not only that, like, let's say you were compassionate. Say you were all around compassionate. If a Syrian refugee broke into your home and started eating all your food, how long would you support them for? How long would you feed them for? How long would you do that for? So I just don't believe people who are all of a sudden sympathetic towards Syrian refugees, but they're not putting their family, their friends, and their own self-interest first. I don't believe people who, I don't really believe people, I don't really trust people who don't put their own self-interest at least somewhere near the top of the line in priority, because it just seems to me that they're not, it's like they're not genuine, you know what I mean? So anyway, back to that, let's just pretend that, the whole migrant crisis is not just a cover for ISIL. Let's pretend that it's real, okay? You have Syrian refugees that are running from ISIS, and you have ISIS on the other side, and then you have us, in the Western world, where our powers that be are fighting to maintain our lifestyles, and their powers that be are fighting to actually attain our lifestyle. We're fighting to sustain, and they're fighting to attain. So it's like, when you're on this side of the globe, yes, you have the luxuries of compassion because you live in a first world country. But do you really think that Iran or Iraq or Syrian citizens, do you really think they view the United States the same way? Do you think they have compassion for us? I mean, let's be honest here. You didn't choose to be born into this world. You were born into this world, and you're entangled in this fight for resources like every other living human being. It just behooves you, it's in your best interest to support the country that you live in, because that's where you're building your life. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. A lot of these liberals support policies that would weaken the United States, and they say, okay, and it can be debated. They could say, why would we attack countries and not expect them to attack back? Well, I mean, if you've done your research, you should know by now that the United States is supported on the basis of second and third world countries. I mean, we import real resources, and all we do is export our inflation. We export our dollars. I mean, we produce things as well in the United States, but most of the things that we import, the valuable resources, we import from other nations at their expense, at the expense of their government and their citizens. So in order to sustain our standard of living, these countries must not be allowed to fully develop. I mean, that's how I see it. I mean, that's how I'm trying to be as realistic as possible. In the game of power, the United States is winning, and we live in the United States. Why would you want them to lose when your family's life, your life, it depends on it? You didn't set the system up, but you were born into it, and it only makes sense to fight for your side. You only have to think about it. You only have the luxury to have compassion for a Syrian refugee or a Syrian person that joins ISIS or all these organizations. You only have the luxury to have compassion for these people because you were born in the United States. If you were born in Iran and Iraq, you wouldn't have the time to think about that because your basic needs wouldn't even be met. So, I mean, that's just what I'm saying here. That's what my argument is here. You can't have compassion for strangers before your own people. And that's how I look at it. I feel like, liberals, not I feel like, I see it. Liberals, they want policies that seem nice, but would damage our strength and would damage our place in the world, would make us look weak. And they have to understand, like, this is a game of power. Like, the United States didn't get to where it is by pure diplomacy. I mean, let's be honest here. I mean, we have the strongest military in the world, and we force other nations to accept our reserve currency. I mean, let's be honest here. Let's really be straightforward about this. So there's a lot of people out there that just have this like fake compassion, and they think that they're compassionate because they change their profile pic to represent victims that they don't have to actually donate to. And it's like, I mean, if you don't pull $1 out of your pocket to donate to these causes, how much do you really think you're doing? Like, I just can't. I can't deal with this anymore. Like, it's like we need to elect a person who is going to seriously take the fight to ISIS and put America back on top as the world's power. We consume 75% of the world's resources. How do you think America is to sustain that level of consumption? How do you think America is to sustain that level of greatness, that level of power? You're not going to be able to do it unless you stop Russia and China from teaming up and I guess excluding us out of global trade. And you're not going to do it if you import a whole bunch of Syrian refugees and illegal immigrants over the border. I mean, it's just not going to happen. So it's like this. You either want America to be a first world superpower, exceptional place where you can make your dreams come true, or you don't. And there's a lot of my liberal friends and a lot of people who live in this country that they don't prioritize the greatness of their country. They prioritize the compassion for other people that they'll never meet. They prioritize, this sort of nice, morality that just doesn't work in the real world. You know why all politicians are scumbags? Because you have to be a scumbag to be able to do that work effectively. I mean, really. I mean, there's no way that you can be leader of there's no way you could be leader of one of the most powerful nations in the world without pissing some people off, without ruffling some feathers. I mean, that's just what it is. There's nobody out there that's pleasing everybody, that's a saint, And the reason why, again, I support Donald Trump is because he's beholden to nobody, and he just wants to make sure that the country that he lives in is supreme. And I don't see why any American who lives in the United States and who is building their life here wouldn't want their country to be exceptional, or wouldn't want their country to be a world leader or exhibit world dominance. If this country doesn't exhibit world dominance, you can't live the standard of living that you want to live. That's just what it is. I mean, and every first world country is the same way, whether it's France, it doesn't matter where it is. Every first world country exists at the historic oppression or the historic dominance over second and third world countries. And that's just what it is. And it just so happens that, capitalist nations, they always do better than collectivist nations. So we're not going to make America stronger by importing more collectivists. We're not going to make America stronger by leaving our borders wide open and not having a strong border policy. So we need to be careful about these Syrian refugees, and we need to be careful about, who we just let into our country. And we have to be vigilant, and we have to be we need to be on offense when it comes to ISIS and when it comes to terror groups. I know that there's a conspiracy and that the CIA created ISIS to, rule the world through world terror, and that's a possibility. But, let's pretend that that's not the case. And you still come down to the basics that this is a fight for resources. And they're on one side and we're on one side. And by default, if you're not fighting for your side, then you're suicidal. And you can't expect people to join you in that. You may think you have an obligation to outsiders, but don't force your countrymen and don't force your fellow people to join you in a fight that they never signed up for. And that's all I'm saying. Don't force everybody else to undertake your kind of charity, especially if you're not willing to pull $1 out of your pocket first. And that's all I got to say. Have a wonderful day, guys.